At the imperial banquet when I was 15, my half-sister presented me with a cup of spiked wine. In a moment of inattention, I fell victim to her ploy and ultimately, in front of everyone, extorted the young lord into marrying me. The entire capital scoffed at me, and the derision and contempt of the Vofu as servants weighed heavily upon me, making it difficult to breathe. Even though the young lord treated me with courtesy after our marriage, putting aside past grievances and maintaining a harmonious demeanor, I understood that this was merely a reflection of his upbringing and sense of obligation. Throughout my life, I lived in a state of trepidation, as if walking on thin ice, fearful of making even the slightest misstep, only to ultimately meet my end in a haze of resentment and regret. Upon opening my eyes once more, I was granted a second chance. However, this time, my half-sister chose to drink the tainted wine herself and hastened to that secluded courtyard. As the young lord passed by that door again, he heard a cry for help, and at the moment he beheld my half-sister in disarray, the foot that was poised to enter retreated.
Một bang.
I witnessed Siahung push open the door, retract his foot, and, seemingly unperturbed, close the door and turn around. For a fleeting moment, I almost thought I had misseen. The family ethos of the yeoman marquisate is exceedingly refined. Siahung, a paragon of grace, possesses an ethereal demeanor akin to that of an immortal, esteemed as the most benevolent, most handsome, and most untainted man in Chang'an, capturing the hearts and dreams of countless noble women. In my previous life, after consuming the wine my half-sister had offered, I endured the unbearable heat and hastily left the gathering, seeking refuge in this secluded courtyard. It was Siahung who discovered me. He gently dabbed a silk handkerchief soaked in cold water against my forehead and cheeks, his touch as tender as his character. Yet, in that moment, I had already lost my senses, my trembling hands instinctively reaching for him. Subsequently, my half-sister deliberately summoned palace maids to alert others, leading to a throng of onlookers witnessing the scene. The emperor and empress were enraged. This scandal spread like wildfire, tarnishing the reputation of everyone in the Ministry of Justice. I knelt in the ancestral hall for 3 days and nights, fainting from exhaustion, only to awaken to my father insisting that I shave my head and live as a nun, accompanied solely by the flickering light of the Buddha. Eventually, as fate would have it, the yeoman marquisate came to propose marriage. 3 letters and 6 gifts were exchanged, marking me as the legitimate wife. Given the stature of the Ministry of Justice and the accompanying disgrace, even serving as a concubine for the yeoman marquisate would be deemed unworthy. Yet, Siahung, the young marquis, truly possessed a heart of compassion. Later, I became a part of the marquisate. The people of Chang'an remarked on Siahung's misfortune, burdened with a disreputable woman, yet they also noted his kindness in granting me the title of wife. On our wedding night, I was overwhelmed by his deep, penetrating gaze. He brushed away the tears from the corners of my eyes and gently assured me, "Do not fear. I have married you, and from now on, you are my wife." No one in the capital dares to speak ill of the lady of Yeoman Marquis. Though he spoke thus, I understood that anyone subjected to such machinations could hardly remain unscathed. That night, though he held no affection for me, his youthful vigor and strict upbringing led him to unleash years of pent-up frustration upon me. His warmth was searing, overflowing with fervor and intensity. The yeoman marquisate had no tradition of taking concubines. Siahung remained devoted solely to me throughout his life. After marriage, I rarely ventured out, unable to face the gossip of the noble women of the capital. Even my daughter, whom I named Zhao, bore the weight of my tarnished reputation, facing difficulties in marriage. My existence was characterized by caution and trepidation. This affair remained like a thorn lodged in my heart, a wound that persisted throughout my life, ultimately leading to my melancholic end. However, I had never harbored resentment towards him. Such a man, regardless of who married him, would be deemed fortunate. It was I who wronged him, misguiding his life. Siahung furrowed his brow and suddenly glanced in my direction. Meeting his dark, piercing eyes, I snapped back to reality and hurriedly departed. 2. I was aware that my half-sister had also been reborn. Although I could not comprehend why Siahung had not acted with the same kindness as in my previous life to save my half-sister, I still hoped that he would marry a noble lady of repute, possessing both beauty and talent, with whom he could share mutual affection. Such a gentleman as he should not bear the burden of an inexplicable individual for a lifetime. The ensuing events unfolded much like my previous life. My half-sister, unable to withstand the heat, was discovered by a vigilant guard while engaging in a clandestine encounter, leading to a report to the emperor about the scandal, which quickly spread far and wide. In the front courtyard, my father struck her twice. "You ungrateful girl! I brought you, a mere illegitimate daughter, into the palace, intending to introduce you to a suitable match out of pity for your deceased mother, and you dare to commit such a disgraceful act publicly. You have utterly tarnished the reputation of the Ministry of Justice." Yun Weilon sobbed, clinging to my father's leg. "Father, I only followed my sister out of concern for her. It was she who led me astray. Please, father, clear my name." My father dismissed her with a violent shove, his anger boiling over, still arguing. "Was it your sister who forced you to consort with the guard?" The illegitimate daughter fell silent. My father issued his final ultimatum. "In 3 days, you shall marry that guard. Otherwise, you may take your own life at home to preserve the honor of the Ministry of Justice." With that, he turned and swept away. Yun Weilon's face turned ashen. I cast a fleeting glance at her before turning to leave. Suddenly, she grasped my skirt, her sharp voice piercing. "Yun Jinshu, this is your doing, isn't it? It should have been Xia Heng coming tonight. Are you the one sabotaging me? It must be you. If not for you, I would have been the illustrious lady of Yong'an. Xia Heng would have married me, respected me, and I would have enjoyed wealth and favor for a lifetime. It is all your fault." I wrenched my hand away from her grasp, my toes pressing against her fingers as I listened to her anguished cry. Delivering my words with a stoic countenance, "Yun Weilon, your misdeeds will lead to your own demise. Once you are married, remember to perform good deeds in memory of your late mother." With that, I departed from the ancestral hall. Behind me, her voice echoed with a tortured wail. "It should not be like this. It should not be like this. Why is it that Xia Heng saves you, while I am left with a mere guard?" As I exited the ancestral hall, a gentle breeze caressed my face. I looked up at the bright moon above, as if all the burdens and shackles that had weighed me down in my previous life had finally settled into dust, swept away in an instant. 3. My half-sister was quietly married off in a small sedan chair. My mother, deeply concerned for my marriage, was forced to postpone our engagement for 3 months due to the repercussions of my half-sister's actions. My mother had set her sights on the son of the current Grand Tutor, Shin Wangting, who was a childhood companion of mine and deemed a suitable match. On that day, Princess Changle invited the noble ladies and gentlemen to the palace for a gathering. During the event, I encountered Shin Wangting, dressed in a light robe. He sat elegantly, holding a wine cup, his handsome features radiating grace as he met my gaze, his eyes twinkling with gentle warmth. After the banquet, as I passed through the imperial garden, I was called to a halt. "Miss Yun." I turned to see Shin Wangting standing tall with his hands clasped behind his back. I slightly bowed in greeting. "Are you here to admire the flowers, Master Shin?" Shin Wangting glanced at the blooming peach trees before his gaze returned to me, his eyes sparkling with mirth. "While the world sings of the beauty of the peach blossoms, only upon seeing Miss Yun do I truly appreciate their brilliance." I regarded him, aware that he must have heard of our family's intentions to unite. Suddenly, Shin Wangting plucked a peach blossom from the branch, bending slightly to present it to me with utmost reverence. "I have admired Miss Yun for a long time. My feelings are as clear as the bright moon. Through countless mountains, my heart walks only towards you. If Miss Yun is willing, I shall soon request my family to propose to the Ministry of Justice." I was momentarily taken aback. Through the image of the man before me, I recalled my past life. Shin Wangting had never encountered great fortune, yet he had lived a life of ease and tranquility. To marry him would indeed provide a secure future. My lips parted, ready to respond, when suddenly, a clear voice imbued with authority interrupted. "It seems this marquis has arrived at an inconvenient time." Xia Heng, clad in a white brocade robe, approached amidst the flurry of falling blossoms, his countenance strikingly pure, like a jade sculpture. I hastily bowed in respect. Shin Wangting also paid his respects. "It is a rare pleasure to see the young marquis. May I inquire as to your purpose for visiting the palace?" A light laugh escaped Xia Heng's throat, his voice laced with an aura of command. "Do I need to report my intentions to you?" Shin Wangting lowered his head even further. "I dare not." Xia Heng paused momentarily, his gaze fixed upon me. Those deep, Shadowy eyes harbored an inscrutable intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. I realized, on the night my half-sister encountered her misfortune, he might have seen me. As a husband for a lifetime, I have always understood him. He detests the sinister machinations of the inner quarters. Could he possibly believe that I orchestrated the events of that night? Indeed, the very next moment, I heard Xia Heng's low voice articulate, "Miss Yun, given the recent incident involving your half-sister, it would be prudent for you to exercise restraint, lest idle gossip emanates from the Ministry of Rights." I clenched my fingers tightly and replied softly, "Your Grace speaks wisely." That entire night upon returning home, I was engulfed by anxiety. Xia Heng had unmistakably issued a veiled warning. It was quite possible he viewed me as the instigator. However, I reassured myself that as long as he refrained from tearing down that thin veil of pretense, all would be well. I bore him no animosity, and he had no reason to intentionally seek conflict over matters that did not concern him. This time, we would both pursue our own paths in life. The following morning, the Grand Tutor's residence sent Madame Shen and a matchmaker to propose marriage. My mother surveyed the array of betrothal gifts and remarked, "Sure, the Shen family must be sincere in their intentions toward you. If you marry into their family, you shall surely find comfort." I lowered my gaze and replied, "I shall defer to Mother's judgment." My mother beamed with delight, about to respond to the matchmaker, when suddenly a servant rushed in, exclaiming, "Madam, sir, the eldest daughter of the yeoman marquis has also come to propose." I stood there, stunned. My entire family was taken aback. It took my mother hearing the servant's report twice to regain her composure. The old marquis's wife, upon observing the lavish betrothal gifts, momentarily faltered, then arrogantly commanded the servants carrying the golden Nanmu gift box to place it atop the gifts sent by the Grand Tutor's residence. She grasped my hand with a beaming smile and said, "Indeed, you are a blossoming lotus, a beauty among jade." No wonder my son was smitten at first sight. I gazed at my former mother-in-law, bewildered, and asked, "Smitten at first sight?" "Indeed," the old marquis's wife affirmed. "My son remarked that at the imperial banquet, Miss Yun displayed both grace and wisdom, a paragon among the noble ladies of the capital, truly the ideal choice for the future marquise." I did not believe a word of it. The old marquis's wife continued, "My son has known the eldest son of the Ministry of Rights since childhood. They share a bond akin to brothers, and their fates align perfectly, a match sent by heaven. He is resolute in his affections. He will marry no one but you. That is why I hurried here this morning to propose." With that, she cast a sidelong glance at the increasingly pale-faced Madame Shin and inquired, "Am I too late?" Everyone fell silent. I recalled that in my previous life, my mother-in-law had not treated me with such warmth. Upon marrying into the marquis's residence, while she had not overtly troubled me, her disdain was evident in her gaze, and the household servants had treated me with cold hostility. My status was already inferior to that of the marquis's family, and even the young ladies within the residence had dared to scald me with hot tea. Had it not been for Xia Heng's protection, I might have met an untimely end in such a stifling atmosphere. Eventually, Xia Heng seized control of the household from the old marquis's wife, granting me the authority, which made the others wary of crossing me. The old marquis's wife squeezed my hand and turned to my parents, saying, "There is no rush. Miss Yun and Madame Yun should consider carefully. The position of matriarch in the marquis's residence shall always be reserved for Miss Yun." Before departing, the old marquis's wife glanced provocatively at the now visibly distressed Madame Shen. The unexpected turn of events was astonishing. News of both the Grand Tutor's and yeoman marquis's simultaneous marriage proposals soon spread throughout the capital. My mother approached me, seeking my opinion. After deep contemplation, I merely stated 4 words: "High doors are difficult to enter." My mother sighed heavily. "I am well aware, but if we refuse the proposal, it may invite displeasure from the marquis's residence." "That will not happen," I replied. "Young Lord Xia is not one to hold petty grudges." "Mother, it is unwise to decline outright and offend the marquis's family. We need only wait a few days before gently conveying our response." My mother remained silent, but acquiesced to my reasoning. For several days, I refrained from venturing out, avoiding the prying eyes and gossip of the outside world. The next time I encountered Xia Heng was 7 days later at a mid-autumn banquet hosted by the Empress. Su Wanner, the daughter of the Prime Minister, who had always been at odds with me, stood up and declared, "Your Majesty, I have heard that the legitimate daughter of the Ministry of Rights, Yun Shu, dances with grace, and her performance of the dance of the surprised swallow has captivated the capital. Since we are all gathered here today, would it not be wonderful to let everyone witness her talent? As her words echoed through the hall, both the emperor and empress frowned. My expression turned icy. Months prior, my half-sister had been embroiled in scandal, and at this banquet, I had strived to remain inconspicuous. Yet now the empress's displeasure at the mention of the Yun family was palpable, and yet Su Wana sought to disrupt my peace. The emperor raised his hand, declaring, "Granted." Reluctantly, I changed into my dance attire and prepared to perform. As the music began, I gracefully retreated a few steps, pivoting elegantly, my sleeves flowing as I poured my heart into the performance of the dance of the surprised swallow. I had practiced this piece countless times since childhood, mastering every note and rhythm. When I concluded, the hall fell into a profound silence, and the audience wore expressions of awe. Only Su Wanner's face was twisted in fury. The emperor, visibly pleased, exclaimed, "Wonderful," 3 times. If I could elicit such joy from His Majesty, then I had successfully navigated this trial. As I exited, I met Xia Heng's penetrating gaze. His long fingers held a cup of wine, and his deep eyes were fixed upon me. While they appeared as gentle and serene as ever, I sensed an underlying sharpness and aggression. My heart raced. "Your Grace, the ladies of the Yun family are not virtuous. The illegitimate daughter openly consorts with guards, while the legitimate daughter clandestinely associates with the son of the Grand Tutor. She is utterly unworthy of you. Only I am fit to be your wife." As I finished changing my attire, preparing to return to the Cloud Palace, I unexpectedly heard Su Wanner's voice. Her enmity toward me stemmed not only from our childhood rivalry, but also from her long-standing affection for Xia Heng. In my previous life, after I married into the Marquis's residence, she had resorted to all manner of schemes to become his concubine, ultimately ending up as an old maid by the age of 20. The entire realm of Jin understood by then that Xia Heng would never accept her. In the end, the Prime Minister and his wife, unable to endure the rumors, hastily married her off to the son of a third-rank official. In this life, after the Yong'an Marquis's proposal, she likely viewed me as an even greater thorn in her side. "Miss Su," Xia Heng's voice rang out, cold and authoritative, "I harbor no romantic intentions toward you. I hope you will relinquish any such hopes. Allow me to remind you, if you continue to harbor ill thoughts towards Miss Yun, I shall not be lenient." Su Wanner's face turned pale, and she stumbled backward, covering her mouth with her handkerchief as she fled in tears. I thought to myself, I truly should not have come here. I turned to leave quietly when I felt a piercing gaze on my back. The man chuckled lightly. "Miss Yin, when did you acquire the habit of eavesdropping?" I stiffened, awkwardly turning around and bowing. "Young lord, I was merely searching for my lost hairpin and did not intend to eavesdrop. Could you kindly overlook this, considering you two have listened in on me during our last encounter in the Imperial Garden?" As soon as I spoke, I regretted it. In my previous life, after 50 years of marriage, he had indulged me, leading me to speak with a lack of restraint. He was a marquis, while I was merely the daughter of the Ministry of Rights. How could I presume to engage with him on equal footing? What do you think? The pair of deep-set eyes fixated on my face, posing a rhetorical question. I pondered my response before saying, "Surely, the esteemed lord possesses a magnanimous heart and would not take offense." Xia Heng remained silent, merely regarding me with a smile that danced at the corners of his mouth, his tall and noble figure advancing a couple of steps toward me. I was taken aback. With so many eyes in the palace, I hastily bowed and retreated, saying, "The mid-autumn banquet has yet to conclude, and as a lowly daughter of the court, I fear that my tardiness may incur the emperor and empress's displeasure. I shall take my leave." Just as I had not taken 2 steps, Xia Heng's voice, rich with implication, reached me from behind. "Miss Yun's surprise dances, simply unparalleled. Exquisite beyond compare." I turned back, my gaze falling upon that familiar face I had long gazed upon in my previous life for nearly 50 years. In that fleeting moment, perhaps driven by some unseen impulse, I instinctively lowered my head and replied, "My lord, you flatter me." Xia Heng seemed momentarily stunned. I responded. For several days following the mid-autumn banquet, I could not shake off the memory of Xia Heng's initial astonishment, followed by the deepening smile that graced his lips. Each recollection made my face flush crimson, leaving me at a loss. I felt utterly mortified. Fortunately, on this day, my mother brought me delightful news. Your father has conveyed our refusal of the marriage proposal to the Marquis's household. If you truly fancy that Shen wanting, I shall instruct your father to expedite the arrangements for your union. It was not a matter of affection, merely suitability. My previous life had been stifling and arduous. This time, I yearned for a different way of living. I nodded, at the yeoman Marquis. In the study, Xia Heng, clad in a dark robe, was engrossed in painting at his desk. The rich aroma of ink permeated the room, where a graceful woman leaped to life on the rice paper. She wore a dress of ebony and gold embroidered with clouds, complemented by a crescent-shaped phoenix tail skirt, which was adorned with irises. The woman stood beneath a peach tree, radiant and captivating. As the final stroke of ink fell, Xia Heng gazed at the figure in the painting for a long while, lost in thought, a hint of a smile gracing his lips. At that moment, a servant timidly entered to report, "My lord, the Ministry of Rights has declined the marriage proposal." Xia Heng's brow furrowed instantly, his usually composed demeanor tightening with tension. His voice deepened as he inquired, "What did you say?" Perhaps due to a lack of appetite over the past few days, I had caught a chill and was burning with fever, lying in bed for an extended period, unable to distinguish day from night. In my dazed state, I had a dream. At the age of 7, I entered the palace with my mother. She had been summoned by the favored consort for a reprimand and, unable to take me along, entrusted me to the maiden Yue, who took me to play in the plum garden. There, I encountered a group of noble girls led by Su Wanner. The young maidens gasped upon noticing my dress, which was nearly identical to Su Wanner's exquisite emerald smoke gauze skirt. They exclaimed, "Sister Wan, her dress is just like yours." "Wow, she looks so beautiful in it. Much more beautiful than Sister Wan." Silence. Su Wanner flushed with anger, commanding her attendants, "What is she, daring to wear the same dress as me? Go over there and rip it off her." The maids hesitated. "Miss, she is the daughter of the Ministry of Rights." Despite her young age, Su Wanner possessed a fierce temper and retorted, "I am the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister, and my aunt is the reigning empress. If anything happens, I will bear the consequences, but if you dare disobey me, I shall have my father sell you all." The group was visibly intimidated. Gritting their teeth, they advanced toward me. Inoue was held down by 2 maids, and as I saw one of the older women lunging at me, I swiftly darted towards Su Wanner, inadvertently knocking her down. My father was a high-ranking official, my mother the daughter of a general, and with 3 brothers who were formidable warriors. I had always been strong as an ox, far surpassing my peers. I clawed and scratched at her. Su Wanner cried out in distress. The maids realized something was amiss and rushed to rescue Su Wanner from my grasp. Enraged, Su Wanner ordered them to restrain me and struck me twice. I struggled like a small beast, but several adults held me down firmly. Inoue wept nearby. As Su Wanner struck and scolded me, blood trickled from the corner of my mouth and my vision blurred, stars dancing before my eyes. Which family does this little girl belong to? So fierce at such a tender age? A clear, melodious voice rang out, drawing everyone's attention. A youth clad in white stood before us. His features as exquisite as a painting, as radiant as the moon, untainted by dust. Su Wanner was momentarily taken aback before exclaiming, "Brother Heng." She quickly explained, "Brother Heng, it is not as it seems." She publicly offended me, and I merely taught her a lesson. The young maidens behind her echoed in agreement. "So it is Miss Su," Xia Heng said, approaching with hands clasped behind his back. "I just overheard one of the Empress's maids looking for you. It must be urgent." Upon hearing this, Su Wanner grew anxious, bade farewell to Xia Heng, and departed with her maids, who quickly dispersed. Xia Heng stepped before me, extending a white porcelain medicine bottle. "This is an excellent ointment for treating wounds, procured from the renowned physician Muyu. You are still young. Do not let it leave a scar." I stood there, stunned, not reaching for it. Xia Heng paused, crouching down, opened the bottle, and delicately applied a bit of ointment to the corner of my mouth with his long fingers. I gazed at him in bewilderment, and despite the pain, I softly remarked, "You are remarkably handsome." A gentle breeze swept through the plum garden. He chuckled lightly. "How handsome?" I counted on my fingers, more handsome than my eldest brother, more handsome than my second brother, and even more than my third brother. You are the most handsome person I have ever seen. A deeper smile graced Xiaheng's lips, his eyes gleaming with playful mischief. If your brothers were to hear that, they would surely come looking for me. I offered no reply, allowing him to finish applying the ointment to my entire face. Just as he was rising, I suddenly grasped his robe, staring up at him with wide eyes, and asked, "When I grow up, will you marry me?" A moment of silence enveloped the air. Xiaheng was taken aback. Yue's eyes widened, and she hastily explained to Xiaheng, "Young Master Xie, our young lady speaks without restraint." A plum blossom petal fell onto his shoulder. He stood, ruffled my hair gently, and smiled tenderly. "Little bean sprout, let us speak of that when you have grown." The dream abruptly ended. I opened my eyes, rubbing my throbbing temples, feeling a dryness in my throat. Just as I prepared to call for Yue, the window suddenly stirred. Accompanied by the night breeze, a shadow leaped through the window. Upon recognizing the figure, my eyes widened in disbelief. "Xiaheng?" Xiaheng chuckled meaningfully. "Little Jin Shu, aren't you going to call me husband anymore?" The man still bore the chill of the night dew, his gaze playfully scrutinizing me. I bit my lower lip, warmth flooding my cheeks, my chest trembling with indignation. You. How had I never realized in my past life that the esteemed and upright Xiaheng was, in fact, a rogue intruding into a young lady's chamber? Such disregard for propriety, such chaos in ritual and music, how outrageous! Xiaheng, however, remained far more composed than I, stepping closer and offering a white porcelain bottle. "This is medicine for dispelling the chill, obtained from the divine physician Muyu. Take one a day and you will be well in a couple of days." I lowered my gaze, my thoughts in disarray. The gesture, those hands, the porcelain bottle, inexplicably echoed my dream. Was that dream real? Yet why did I have no recollection of it before? Xiaheng had no reason to deceive me. I reached out to accept the bottle and, in his presence, swallowed a pill before urging him, "Young Marquis, you must leave quickly. If you linger any longer and are discovered, our reputations will be tarnished." Xiaheng glanced at me, his thin lips parting slowly as he asked, "Do you truly intend to marry Shinwangting? Matters of marriage are dictated by parental orders and the matchmaking of others. That is unacceptable." Xiaheng's voice was low and resolute. "Who I choose to marry is hardly within the purview of the young Lord Xie to dictate." Xiaheng fell silent for a protracted moment, his delicate lips moving slightly. "That night at the palace banquet, when your half-sister encountered her misfortune, I saw you." I tightened my grip on the bedsheet beneath me, steadying my voice as I replied, "And what of it? This matter does not concern me, and it has long since passed. I thought you were the one in danger, which is why I hurried out to check." I was momentarily taken aback. "It is a relief that you are unharmed." Xie Yan's deep, enigmatic gaze was fixed upon me, his voice low and melodious. "Xiao Jinshu, I am enamored with you." My heart trembled. As I raised my eyes, I was met with a burning intensity within his gaze, a heat that sent my pulse racing. In both this life and the last, it was the first time I had witnessed such unabashed affection in Xiaheng's eyes. My forehead still throbbed. I found myself grappling with the weight of his words. "You." Xiaheng continued to gaze at me, his voice clear and alluring. "I have come to seek an answer. If you are fond of Shinwangting, then so be it. But if you are not—" He paused, suddenly bending before me, his demeanor humble and respectful. Articulating each word with care, "I would offer a dowry of 1,000 gold pieces, a bridal procession 10 miles long, to declare to the world my intention to marry Jinshu. Once one has traversed the vast seas, no other waters can compare. Apart from Mount Wu, no clouds are alike." After Xiaheng departed, I remained somewhat dazed. Perhaps the chill in the air had caused me to hallucinate. When I regained consciousness, the white porcelain vase by my bedside served as a stark reminder that the thief of fragrant secrets had indeed visited me last night. That profound declaration of "once one has traversed the vast seas" was not a figment of my imagination. It took me 2 lifetimes to understand that Xiaheng's presence in the rear garden that fateful night was no coincidence. It was all because of me, undeniably. My previous refusals of marriage stemmed not only from a sense of guilt for my past life, but also from a pivotal belief. I felt that his wife could be anyone. Regardless of who she was, he would treat her with utmost care. I was not indispensable. Yet that phrase, "apart from Mount Wu, no clouds are alike," left me questioning everything I had assumed. When my mother sought me out, I was still somewhat disoriented. She informed me that the Vofu had seemingly accepted the annulment of the marriage proposal from the Zhongshu Shifu without much fuss. Due to a drought in the south, the young lord had departed the capital early that morning to provide aid to the disaster-stricken. I felt a sense of unreality wash over me. After a moment, my mother sighed as she observed my expression. Last time, I wished to ask you why you seem to know so much about that young lord. When did you catch his eye? Yet now, with the outcome settled, it seems even if you had feelings for him, it may be too late. I buried my head in my mother's embrace, muttering, I do not wish to marry yet. I want to spend more time with you. My mother gently stroked my hair.
Oh, you.
The medicine worked wonders. My cold dissipated within just a few days. I busied myself at home, brewing wine and preparing flower notes, occasionally hearing news of Xia Heng from the bustling streets. He had been gone for over a month. Rumors circulated that he was employing swift and decisive measures against corrupt officials embezzling grain supplies, yet he treated every disaster victim with a compassionate heart. Such is how a gentleman should behave. At the month's end, I encountered my half-sister once more. Yun Weilon had snuck out while the guard's mother was absent, kneeling before our father in tears, lamenting that the guard viewed her merely as a source of wealth. Her aunt's dowry had long been squandered, and the guard, a notorious drunkard, often resorted to violence against her. If she failed to procure silver to buy him liquor, his abuse would only escalate. Father's expression was cold. He had no intention of intervening. When no one was watching, she turned and dashed into my Elon garden. At that moment, I was trimming my favorite begonia when I heard hurried footsteps behind me. I turned to see Yun Weilon charging at me, a dagger in hand, her face contorted with rage. Why is it always you as the Ofuran in both lives?
Recht girl, die.
My pupils dilated in shock. Her abrupt attack left me no time to evade. In the next instant, a large hand seized the blade of the dagger, blood gushing from that hand as I recognized the figure in white standing beside me.
Bang!
Yun Weilon was sent flying by a swift kick. Xia Heng turned to the now terrified servant nearby, commanding, Aren't you going to report this to the authorities? Yun Weilon was taken away. Xia Heng then turned to me, his elegant features breaking into a smile. This past month, Jin Shu, have you missed me? I was momentarily lost in thought, recalling that he had once uttered similar words during his lengthy absences in a past life. I took a step back. Young lord, you overstep. But I have missed you dearly. His gaze remained fixed on me. Jin Shu, my affections for you are profound, yet my pen struggles to convey my heart's intentions. Fortunately, we were alone, or I would have been at a loss for how to react. Yet in the next moment, he uttered something that left me astounded. I have come to formally propose. In the front courtyard, my parents were once again taken aback. After all, which suitor arrives not with a matchmaker but personally to propose? I watched as my father and mother treated Xia Heng with utmost respect. Unsure how to respond as I heard him speak gently, I have long admired Miss Yun. I have tossed and turned, unable to quell these feelings. I hope that the esteemed official of Zhongshu Shifu will grant me this opportunity. Let us bind ourselves with a promise of lifelong partnership, inscribed on a red note to confirm our union. I hid behind the eaves, my ears burning with embarrassment. My parents ultimately made the decision, agreeing to the proposal. My mother remarked that the young lord, upon being rejected the first time, had not reacted with anger but had instead returned personally, demonstrating his sincerity and genuine desire to marry, which was commendable. My father added that refusing the young lord again could jeopardize his own position. Thus, their opinions aligned. On the day of my wedding, all three of my brothers returned home, weeping as they bid me farewell. Particularly, my eldest brother cried the hardest. If you are mistreated, just tell me, and I will take my sword and go to the Fofu to confront him. I had to admit, my brother was truly brave. As Xia Heng had said, on the day of the wedding, the sounds of gongs and drums filled the air. The bridal procession was a spectacle to behold. This time, the townsfolk looked on not with disdain or ridicule, but with admiration and envy. Crimson silk hung high before the Ofu, and strings of lanterns adorned the entrance. The sound of firecrackers echoed into the night. Xia Heng lifted my bridal veil, a joyful and satisfied smile gracing his lips. Madam, you are stunning today. As radiant as spring blossoms and as luminous as the autumn moon. I no longer felt the dread I had in my past life. Meeting his gaze, I felt calm and composed. Xia Heng brought forth the ceremonial wine, and we drank together. Afterward, just as I had done for decades past. I reached to untie his waist sash. However, Siaheng halted my hand. Madam? Oh, should I perhaps exhibit a bit of modesty and shyness at this moment? I withdrew my hand, my gaze inadvertently falling upon the corner of his mouth, noticing a slight bruise. What happened here? Siaheng blinked in surprise, chuckling. I accidentally bumped into something. With that, he grasped my hand and gently pressed me down, his gaze locking onto mine for a few seconds before he seemed unable to restrain himself any longer, capturing my lips with a fervent kiss. The room was filled with the warmth of budding romance. An epilogue from Siaheng's perspective, in truth, before encountering that little girl in the plum garden. I had heard the eldest Yun speak of his sister more than once. The eldest Yun had been incessantly chattering in my ear. Do you have a sister? I do. Can your sister sweetly call you brother? Mine can. Will your sister sneakily eat osmanthus cake and deliberately save a piece for you? Mine will. Thus, within the ranks of the Northern Army, nearly everyone was aware that Major General Yun had an exceedingly adorable younger sister. Upon returning to the capital at the tender age of 14, Yun Bufan approached me with a crooked drawing in hand, solemnly declaring, "Life in the military is arduous, and I have not returned home for half a year. When you return to the capital, if you happen to see my sister, please do check if she has grown taller." I acquiesced, although I mused inwardly that the imperial city was vast and encounters were not so easily orchestrated. Moreover, Yun Bufan's artistic skills left much to be desired. Those unfamiliar with the subject might mistake the drawing for a fearsome creature with jagged teeth rather than a young girl. Nevertheless, I recognized the Yun family's little sister from that drawing, for her uneven teeth, a hallmark of her age, bore a striking resemblance to the depiction. At the cusp of losing her baby teeth, one had been knocked out by Suwana, yet she did not weep or fuss. Instead, after I rescued her, she earnestly complimented my appearance. Good-looking? Such an unrefined descriptor. She further proclaimed that I was more handsome than her eldest, second, and third brothers. I found her assertion quite reasonable and felt inclined to repeat it in front of Yun Bufan. However, this little girl audaciously inquired, "When I grow up, can you marry me?" I was taken aback. Yun Bufan had not mentioned that his sister was so precocious. As I pondered whether my earlier actions had been inappropriate for a child of her maturity, I replied, "Let us wait until you have grown up first." Dejected, she turned away. Not far off, I overheard her maid admonish, "Miss, such words should not be spoken lightly." The little girl, tilting her head, retorted with a grin, "Mother said that when you see someone handsome, you must act first. And besides, it seems Sue Warner likes him a lot. So I'll snatch him away and make her furious. Hee hee, I truly am clever." Indeed, she was quite astute. I chuckled to myself. Upon returning, I recounted her words to Yun Bufan, who was incredulous and even challenged me to a duel. Subsequently, he insisted on dragging me home to confront his sister. However, at that time, my official duties kept me occupied, and I rarely returned to the capital. Only occasionally did I glean tidbits about the little girl from Yun Bufan.
Hey.
My sister made me some osmanthus cakes by hand today. I brought a bit for you to try. This outer garment splendid? My sister personally helped me choose it. As time passed, the little girl grew, and Yun Bufan became increasingly anxious. My sister is as beautiful as a fish that sinks and a flower that shames the moon. No man can forget her once seen. I dread to think whom she may end up with. My half-sister is no longer a child. Her mother, having climbed the social ladder, has instilled in her a cunning nature. My sister is innocent. I hope she does not fall prey to her machinations. By the way, my sister has grown from this height to this height. She surely will no longer harbor such narrow views. Shall we go together and compare heights? He gestured at his waist and then at his chest. Has the little girl truly grown so much? I recalled her innocent words from that day. "When I grow up, can you marry me?" Our next encounter took place in a narrow alley in Chang'an, where a shop sold osmanthus cakes. I recognized her immediately. The young lady stood gracefully, in the bloom of youth, captivating the gaze of all who beheld her. Yun Bufan had spoken the truth. Eldest brother is returning soon. He adores the osmanthus cakes from the shop. Let us buy more to prepare for him. He will be delighted, she said with a soft smile to her accompanying maid. I was left speechless. It was both unexpected yet entirely anticipated. After purchasing the cakes, she and her maid turned to leave. passing by me as though no one recognized me. Were children's memories truly so short? Our third meeting occurred in the Queen's Wanfeng Hall, where she seemed to finally recall who I was, greeting me with the same obedient courtesy as those around her. As she lowered her gaze, her long eyelashes cast shadows over her cheeks, and a small red beauty mark graced the corner of her eye, often referred to in literature as a beauty spot. That night, the mark invaded my dreams, a gentle wave of longing washing over me. Upon waking, I scolded myself while washing my bed linens throughout the night. Our next encounter was at a palace banquet. She and her half-sister exited in succession. Recalling Yun Bufon's words, I felt a twinge of unease and followed them outside. Approaching the garden entrance, I heard cries for help within. My heart raced. I pushed the door open, only to find she was not inside. As long as it was not her, it mattered little who else was involved. I swiftly shut the door behind me, only to catch sight of her around the corner. Though she was playful and clever, her pure innocence would not allow her to engage in such mischief. It was likely her half-sister who had caused the trouble. Even if she were involved, what did it matter? The inner quarters require a measure of ruthlessness for self-protection. Relieved, I exhaled deeply. After returning home, the scent of her lingered in my dreams once more. Restless and yearning, I began to comprehend the forbidden feelings I harbored for her, eagerly anticipating our next meeting. Fortunately, it was not long in coming. Deep within the garden, Shen Wangting was professing his feelings to her. The little girl had grown. It was time for her to consider suitors. Shen Wangting offered her a peach branch, and she seemed poised to accept it. The thought of her becoming another wife, preparing meals for someone else, ignited a tempest of agitation within me, as if a swarm of ants were gnawing at my heart. I ungraciously stepped forward, acknowledging the ignobility of my actions. That evening, I returned home in turmoil. Others described me as gentle and refined. Yet none knew that the moment I beheld her in the imperial garden, I was overtaken by a desire to possess. Regardless of her affections for Shen Wangting, I could use my influence to claim her for myself. As long as I wished it, she would belong to me. For the first time, I scrutinized my own nature. I was not the honorable gentleman I appeared to be, but rather a man ensnared by lust. Merely having seen her a few times, I found myself entranced by her. Such feelings, born from nowhere, had deepened profoundly. The thought of marrying her reached its zenith. I instructed my mother to initiate the marriage proposal, fearing that if I hesitated, another might seize the opportunity. To my dismay, I was met with rejection. The little girl did not harbor feelings for me. I wallowed in despair for days, drowning my sorrows in wine, while even Yun Bufon mocked me in his letters from the border. Ha! You? You think you can marry my sister? Rejected, I presume?
Ha ha ha.
I could not force her into a marriage against her will. She would despise me for it. After much contemplation, I committed the most audacious act of my life by clandestinely entering her quarters. I needed to ascertain the truth. The answer I received was satisfactory. She held no genuine feelings for Shen Wangting. I had half a mind to inquire, "Do you still remember your promise to marry me?" But ultimately refrained. Childhood words. She likely had long forgotten. The next day, I received orders to head south for disaster relief. I was reluctant to leave, fearing that during my absence, Shen Wangting would make his move. Yun Bufon wrote to me in a tone of sympathy. I spoke to my mother regarding this matter, urging her not to hastily agree to the marriage with the Shen family, granting you a fair chance to compete. For the first time, I responded to him with two simple words: thank you. However, it was evident that Lord Yun did not believe I would succeed in my courtship. Once the disaster relief efforts concluded, my foremost task upon returning to the capital was to propose. Shen Wangting could afford to wait, but I could not. I intended to take the initiative in this matter. The couple from the Central Secretariat seemed quite pleased with my earnestness. This proposal unfolded more smoothly than I had anticipated. When the news reached Lord Yun, his expression was one of profound dismay. Did she truly accept? I replied yes. He inquired further, and did my sister agree as well? I nodded once more, affirming, indeed. Lord Yun furrowed his brow as if he could crush a fly with it, exclaiming, "How could my sister possibly be fond of someone like you?" I retorted, "What type does my fiancé prefer?" Yun Bufon responded, "My sister favors robust and powerful warriors."
Not someone like you.
I simply replied, "Oh." After a moment's pause, Yun Bufon abruptly asked, "When did you set your sights on my sister?"
to this.
Yun Bufan wore a look of melancholy. You cannot possibly have developed an interest in her because of me, can you? I felt a pang of guilt and fell silent. Yun Bufan, incensed, exclaimed, You wretch! I regarded you as a brother, and you wished to become my brother-in-law. I had no desire to engage in a brawl with him. So, I decided to take my leave. Yet, a confrontation seemed unavoidable. The night before the wedding, he invited me to the rafters to admire the moon and drink wine, only to ultimately hurl the bottle in frustration, declaring, Let's just settle this with a fight. I can no longer endure it. With a bruise at the corner of my mouth, I entered the bridal chamber. The moment I lifted the veil, I nearly held my breath. She was as beautiful as she had appeared in my dreams. I pressed her beneath me and kissed her lips, feeling an unprecedented satisfaction deep within my heart. That little sprout who had once requested that I marry her in our youth had, after all the twists and turns, become my wife.
The end.
Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story together.